Afternoon and welcome to this very special show, and I'm delighted to be joined by Clare again today. Good afternoon, Clare.
Good afternoon, Stephen.
It's good to meet again. I'm just back from a 4-day trip to France as chair of the Twinning Committee, because we're twinned with Mayenne in France and Vauden in Germany, and once a year we get together for a long weekend, and that means that I've been away for 4 days. And that means that my emails and my messages, and I'm just knee deep in things. So I'm very interested in our chat today because it's very practical and I can put it into action hopefully straight away. So, do many people do holiday planning, or should they?
They possibly should. Whether they do or not, it's probably a case of the sort of the run up to the holiday and all the panic that ensues, or all the last minute hoo-ha that goes on in order to actually get off on that holiday. And I think what a lot of people find, and certainly it was something I used to find when I was sort of not working for myself but working in the corporate environment, is that you had that week was really hectic, trying to get things finished off, clearing or getting ready for incoming mounds of email, handing over projects so that you could go away on holiday and almost feel that you could relax.
Yes.
I think I did feel it tended to be a sort of longer hours trying to get everything done in the run up to the holiday. So yeah.
That was to be fair. Yeah, that was to be fair to the person who was going to sort of sit in for you whilst you were away.
And not just, I mean, that was being organised. I think some people just go on holiday and their team or their colleagues can be sitting there thinking, well, what's happening with this project? And there's no status updates, there's no handover, there's no information available. The person that's gone on holiday has left everything, it's all in their head, or they haven't told anyone what's going on. So, yeah, it can be an issue.
They've really dropped someone in it. That sort of thing. Right, now it's also important, it's more important when there's just you or just you and someone else, isn't it?
It is, yes. I think sometimes it's almost easier when it's just you, because you can just shut down your business depending what type of business you've got, and off you go. And as long as I think that the key thing really is to plan ahead and have told your clients, customers, anyone that needs to know what's happening, that you're going to be away, and if they need to get any information to you or they're likely to want anything, to let you know in advance, rather than that Friday 4 o'clock, just you're about to go away, somebody phones up and says, oh, can you just do XYZ, or can you send me this information? Yeah.
Kev's just asked a fair question and we'll take it straight away. How do you plan to go on holiday without telling everybody your house is empty?
There's this sort of, I mean, now Facebook is out there and everyone's sort of posting when they're sitting at the airport saying, whoopee, we're going on holiday for 2 weeks. And I'm very wary about doing that. I think with your clients, they potentially know, and not everyone is necessarily going to know where you live from a business point of view. And out of office messages are obviously useful to let people know that you're away, and that doesn't necessarily have an address on it. So yeah, I guess if you think that sort of security is going to be an issue, then you need to be selective about who you let know that you're going to be away and how long for.
Yeah, I mean, staying with that point, I mean, when we went away for over the weekend, nothing was posted on Facebook until the day we were coming back.
Yeah.
And so people just don't know you're away. Your friends on Facebook don't know where you are for those 4 days. All they know is your postings have stopped.
Yeah.
Which, apart from automatic posts, of course.
Well, I don't know in reality how much of that is an issue. What the sort of the stats are on that, but I would have thought with people being very open about posting absolutely everything about their lives, it would be an issue. But there you go.
Right, okay. So with holiday planning and your holiday planning, where do you start?
Well, you start by planning ahead. So knowing, obviously, when you're going to go, there's two aspects, I think, to holiday planning. There's planning, and as we're talking from a sort of a business work perspective, there's that side of things, and there's also the planning for the holiday itself, and it's all about planning ahead. So knowing what's coming up, what projects you're working on, what's likely to be impacted, is anything likely to happen while you're going away? And the further ahead you plan, the easier it is to preempt anything that might be coming up. If in that last week you're suddenly trying to finish off projects or catch up on work or pull things together within a few days, that's going to add to the pressure and stress. So planning is key.
Yeah. So you should, how far in advance should you plan? When do you start planning for your holiday? It's a $64,000 question, but I'm going to put it in there anyway.
Yeah, I think, I mean, planning for the actual holiday, I'm just sort of thinking of the recent ones I've taken. I've let people know almost as soon as, depending on who they are, as soon as it's booked up, that I'm going to be away that week. Obviously, if I'm booking clients in, I'm letting them know that I'm not available that week, on those days. And then putting the sort of the out of office message up, which only goes up when I'm actually away. Actual planning for the holiday itself, you need, well, again, depending where you're going. Recent trip, I obviously needed to get some injections because I was going to foreign climates. So that means planning well in advance for that in order to get boosters and visas and anything else that might be required. So there's the holiday planning element as well. And then getting things out and organised, and have you got enough sun cream? Have you got enough currency? So I think a couple of weeks ahead, you need to be planning on both sides.
Right. So would you create a checklist to make sure that you don't?
Oh, yes, I love checklists. I must admit, I did for my recent India holiday because there was so much to think about and so much to take. And I love sort of checklists. So if you're the sort of person that needs to make sure that you've got, that you remember your particularly techie gadgets and camera and any bits and pieces you need to take, medications, that you've got a checklist and you can tick those things off as you put them to one side. And I also set that aside in my spare room as and when I think about it, again, well in advance. So the chances are it's much more likely that I'll have got everything together and avoid any last minute rushing around, dashing off to Boots because you've forgotten something. Yeah.
So checklist, checklist personal, checklist business?
Personal checklist and a business checklist. Write down if you're planning on a daily basis anyway, you know what needs to be done. And really that holiday is just a gap in that planning process and your to-do list. So you have an idea of what needs to be completed, who's doing what, where and when, or if it's all you, what you're expecting from customers and clients. And potentially setting things up before you go. If you work as a team, look at having a team meeting so that you can hand over or provide the right documentation as part of that.
Okay, so advise customers when?
Depends on the business as to how much notice they...
Let's say you have a business where you're actually... there are two ways. You're either selling things or selling time. Selling time, and you've got appointments.
Well, you're not going to be booking appointments in that time when you're on holiday anyway. So they're going to realise as you book, and it may be a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance, it may be a month in advance, that's when you're away.
Okay, and advise them by email. Do you want to make sure they've got the email?
Yes, I quite often use Streak on my Gmail, which enables you to see if they've opened or viewed it. Or, I mean, in my case, if I'm talking with clients, then we have a conversation, so I know that I've told them.
Right.
And I also make a note of when they're off on holiday, so we don't book sessions in, or if I'm sort of expecting them to turn up and go, oh yes, they're on holiday this week.
Right. So clear the calendar for the period. And advise your customers so that they know in advance. All right, okay. So you're away on holiday, and you've done all that. You've told the customers. You're not posting on Facebook. How do you relax on holiday knowing there's a business left behind?
I think knowing, again, having planned for your holiday, knowing what the status of your various project work, orders, if you're selling products, might be, and that you've delegated. Even, I mean, there's some instances I've got a very small team, so we'll let them know that I'm going to be away, and they will either keep things ticking over, or they'll be able to handle any calls. There's a call redirection that can be really useful for holiday if it's just you, is redirecting your phone calls to someone else. Right. And they will answer on your behalf, take messages, forward through anything that's urgent.
Right. So that using virtual assistants?
Yes, yeah.
Right. I'm not sure about this, but I'll ask anyway. Will virtual assistants just work for 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
The phone service that I've used, which is essentially just a call answering service, they will, obviously they prefer to get you on a contract, but it can be quite a good way of seeing how it works, to try it out while you're away on holiday. And I have done that. If it's purely holiday work, because there is a setup time or setup fees, the process they need to go through to understand your business, it can be more difficult. But I've got somebody close by who knows me and my business that I can use if need be.
Yeah. So someone that you know. Right. Okay. We're away on holiday. Shall we read emails?
I'm in two minds about this now. My usual thing would be, you're on holiday, that's it. Don't take your laptop with you, don't work, you're there to enjoy yourself and relax and unwind, and it's holiday time. But with this sort of flexible working and technology and being able to work from anywhere around the world and having Wi-Fi available in all sorts of places, there is an element of flexible working, but you just happen to be on holiday. So I'm coming more round to, as long as you're not running your business while you are meant to be on holiday. I think there's two slight differences. I was working with a client who quite often goes away on holiday, I'm pleased to say, and quite often takes his work with him, but it's a case of he checks his email once a day, an hour at the most in the morning, and then he's able to relax and enjoy the rest of his time. And he doesn't then come back to a huge backlog of emails. So if there's that small element of having the freedom and flexibility, and it's not a chore, and it's not because you have to, and there's this major stress and pressure of being able to check in while you're on holiday, that's fine. But if you can walk away and just leave it for a couple of weeks, that's even better.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, I've been known to take the tablet on holiday to foreign climes and just check the email once a day. But if somebody's got a problem, then I can go onto the tablet, connect remotely and sort it. But I don't read the emails I turn the alerts off.
Yes,
yeah.
I think, again, depending on where you're going, and certainly some of the places I've been recently, there's no Wi-Fi, and more than likely there's no mobile signal anyway. So even if you wanted to, you may not be able to. So you need to allow for that and plan for that as well. And I often say in my out of office that I'm not expecting to answer email. It may purely be that I'm just sort of keeping tabs on what's coming in, but I'm not intending to respond or do any work while I'm away.
Got it. Okay. Now, when you return from your holiday, if you followed your advice, Claire, then our inboxes are going to be clear and no messages. But that's not going to be the reality, is it?
No, I mean, even I find there's a sort of a massive email backlog when I get back, and it's about clearing it out very quickly. It's when you return from holiday, don't overload that first week back. Again, depending on the nature of the job and whether you're working on your own or you're working with a team or a small team, is plan that week back on the basis that you've been away, you need to catch up, you might need to have status update meetings with your team, handover meeting for them to hand work back to you, and clearing the inevitable backlog of emails.
Yeah. So don't do it straight away. Do it in stages.
You can do it in stages. Again, it depends how much email you get.
Right.
The majority of people are getting 100 emails a day. So if you're away for 2 weeks, that's an awful lot of email.
It is.
Again, majority of it is probably not going to be important, especially if you've been away for 2 weeks and if you've put your out of office message. And you can say, I've heard and seen this happen, that people will say, I'm going to be away on holiday for 2 weeks. And I think in one of my blog posts about extreme ways of dealing with email, they essentially said, I'm deleting all of my emails that I've received while I'm away. So basically, if you've got anything important, either resend the email when I'm back or phone me up. So if you make it very clear about what you're going to do. But otherwise, yes, if you've got a massive backlog, tackle it in sort of smaller bite-sized chunks until you can work your way through it.
Yeah. Other ways to actually sort of categorize your email so that when you do come back, you know what the urgent things are.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there are lots of sort of tips, and I think we covered them in one of the previous calls around good ways of managing and organizing your email and your inbox so that you can use filters and folders. You can categorize them, you can flag them. So it's much, much easier to see what's important. Gmail is quite good at doing that, filtering it off into the different boxes that it's got. Outlook similarly, and in fact, most of them, I think you can just set up filters and rules to sort it into a folder, and then you can very quickly see that you've got X number of emails in your reading folder or a newsletter folder or relating to a particular client. Makes it much quicker to go through.
So you can set all of that before you go away. In fact, yes, possibly as well to have it as a regular system, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. If that's the way you're managing, you should be managing your inbox anyway. It's going to make your life so much easier when you come back from holiday, because you can very quickly look through. And we usually know what's important by looking at either who it's from or what the subject is. So it's quite easy to sort of scan down your inbox of emails and say, okay, that one's important, that's not so important. I can delete that and do that on an initial scan when you get back in.
Right. Now, we're talking about holiday planning, but how important is it to have a holiday, a break? Yes.
Very important. Yes, I'm making the most of it this year. Definitely. And you need breaks to relax, to unwind, to appreciate what's important in life, and it's not all just about work. And whether it's your annual 2-week holiday or it's a long weekend away, when we have lots of bank holiday weekends, it's quite useful to go away for a long weekend, do something completely different, and even just taking breaks in the week. It's working all the time is not good for you. It's not good for your health and your stress levels and everything else. So yeah, taking regular breaks is important, and getting away completely from work is also important to help stress levels and just give you that sort of appreciation of what's really important, spending time with family, friends.
So how can you best manage stress levels?
Be aware of what causes you stress, and do what you can to take control of the environment. Simpler things like exercising regularly is very good for reducing stress. Watching what you eat. We tend to, when we're feeling out of control or feeling overwhelmed, you won't find time for exercise, so that doesn't help, and you don't get that boost of energy you get from exercising. You more likely to be eating unhealthily because you don't have time to plan and eat healthily. And if you have got too much work and you're feeling under pressure, then your stress levels are going to rise as a result of that. And stress, unfortunately, is one of those things that you don't realize how stressed until it actually hits you.
Very
And
true.
not that it's too late, but you tend to get to breaking point and sort of everything piles up and then you have to do something about it. So you want to try and avoid getting to that.
And one of the best ways is to go on holiday.
Yeah, going on holiday, and I think regular exercise, and it doesn't have to be pounding away in the gym. It can be just going for a walk after work, during work, lunchtime, before work. I was out for a run earlier today, and actually I managed to do two things. I went and picked up a letter from the post office that needed a signature, and I got some exercise at the same time. So
win-win.
Bonus. Yeah.
I mean, we've been away, as I said, to a twinning weekend, and it's just a complete break. But in our particular case, everything's planned for you. All you have to do is turn up at the coach at 4 a.m. in the morning, and you're whisked. Oh, well, not whisked. You go over to France by the ferry. And 11 hours later, you arrive in your destination, and your host picks you up, takes you home, and looks after you for 4 days. So, that's a very relaxing.
That was the nice thing when I was doing my cycling, which I'm not sure I'd sort of call that holiday. But when we were doing that, everything was organised for us. So we turned up, got on we didn't go on a coach, we cycled the first bit, but all the meals were planned, where we just got told where we needed to be at what time, and off we went. So you didn't have the stress of actually being on holiday, which I know can be quite stressful itself if you've got to sort of get yourself and a family from one place to the next, and it involves travel of some description. That's going to get stressful.
It does. Well, not these days, but it used to.
I think it still can with airline flights. And again, my recent holiday, coming back from, going to Latvia, we ended up missing the transfer window and got delayed by 5.5 hours.
Right.
Coming back, almost the same thing happened because there was an incident on the plane, but we made it back. And there's that element of you're going to be late, you're going to miss things. Some things are completely out of your control and some things you can control. But I think the important thing is to realise that either things happen or just relax and enjoy the journey and the process, and you will get there.
Yeah. Concentrate on the positive.
Yes.
I mean, it's the situation is that, as you say, travel to destinations abroad throughout Europe and further afield as you've been this year. You've got to be mentally prepared to accept these little incidents, haven't you?
Yeah, and you've got traffic. I mean, even if you go on holiday in this country, there's the inevitable one if you're limited to times when you can go. I mean, bank holidays, I nearly always avoid traveling on a bank holiday weekend because you just know it's going to be busy, or take a day earlier or go a day later, and the same coming back. So you're not sitting for hours in traffic on the M25, M1, wherever I might be going.
Any road with an M in it.
On a bank holiday. So, and it's the same again with going to the airports. You're likely to, particularly holiday time, you're likely to end up getting delayed. On some of the sort of airlines, you might get delayed for several hours. So there's a certain element of plan for that, in that you've got something you can do, like a good book to read or talk to your fellow travellers, and just sort of relax and enjoy it as much as you can. If it's outside of your control, sometimes there's not an awful lot you can do.
Indeed, we'll try. But we've covered. Is there anything you feel we've not covered?
Things. I think one of the things with planning, and I used to sort of find that it happens, is before you go away, it's working out what's really important. And if you've got a lot of things on your list that need to get done, you think, I've got to do all of these before I go on holiday. Is actually give yourself a bit of a reality check and look at what's important and what really, really needs to be done before you go and what can actually wait. Because sometimes when you've prioritized your list and you go, well, actually that can wait, it takes the pressure off.
Right.
Feeling that you need to complete everything, and avoiding that, either working really long hours in order to get everything done, or any sort of last minute panics. If you can plan ahead and think ahead and communicate up front, then you'll avoid those.
So as far as possible, avoid stress on the day before you go.
Yeah. And don't try and make that week don't sort of book up back-to-back meetings that week before you go away, because you know there'll be follow-up and actions and other things to do. See if you can ease yourself into your holiday as well as easing yourself back from your holiday.
Excellent advice. Anything else we've not covered?
No, I think that those are the main things.
Right.
Is just sort of relax and enjoy it. If you find, and I know some people find going on holiday stressful, is just think about the positives and think about what your reasons for going on holiday and the people that you're with, and focus on that, and don't get caught up in the delays or all the things that are actually outside of your control. Holiday is there for you to enjoy, not to be an added source of stress.
Wise words. Right. To everyone who's watched this live today, we'd like to say thank you very much. If you want to come on air and ask questions, then please do so. We'll be stopping recording in a couple of minutes, and then we can just have, chill for a moment and wind down. But I think today is possibly the time we've covered the whole topic and enjoyed doing so, as we usually do. We'll be back next month. Possibly on a different platform, but we'll find you and give you a link for it. And so we'd both like to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your holiday.
Indeed. And